Yo, the KingR here. As a avid wrestling fan, I thought I'd give my 2 cents on WWE's Summer Slam that just took place, and just go ahead, talk over them, talk about the matches. Not really to critique them, but just give my thoughts on how the matches were and the storylines and however you want to put it and what could be going on from the next premium live event, which will be what, Bash at Berlin at the end of August, and we go from there. But I digress to some extent. Just excuse me. So, anyways, there were 7 matches on the card, and it took place live from Cleveland, Ohio, at the Cleveland Brown Stadium, open air. That's the one thing you have to deal with when you're doing a wrestling event. That's typically indoors, controlled environment, and you have to deal with the weather. But hey, it was a nice, beautiful summer day, surprisingly, on the mistake by the lake. But they, without a hitch. So I mean, the few times that the WWE has done live events outdoors, there's only been a few mishaps. But that's they want to do it outside, and 3 of their 4 major events, major PLEs, have been taking place in stadiums, in football fields, baseball parks. So I mean, that's the risk you gotta take. But let's move on. Anyways, there were 7 matches on the card, which I believe is just the right number. You know, um, once you get past, say, when you're getting close to, say, 10, you're kind of pushing it, because I mean, you don't need, less is always more. I'm sure I'll be saying that a lot. Less is always more. 7's a good number. I mean, 6 of them were title matches. One was a grudge match. And overall, I felt like they delivered. SummerSlam was good. I don't know about great, but it was spot on. It was enjoyable. Um, I will say I did not really, you know, did didn't really care for Jelly Roll or the little filler they did later on, but that's all besides the point. They're always going to have these fillers, and did they really have any backstage interviews and so on? Memory doesn't serve me correctly, but anyways, eh, you know, you got a 3.5 hour long show. The 7 matches can take their time. Let them breathe. Don't rush them. Unlike some other companies that, hey, let's have like 15 matches, go 5 hours, and you just get worn out. But I mean, even though W had like a 3 hour long kickoff show, so, but let's just get to the heat of the matter. Go from match to match. Starting off, first match on the card was the WWE Women's World Championship. Liv Morgan defending the title against Rhea Ripley, accompanied by Dominic Mysterio. But actually, before I dive into that, uh, this is I don't believe the WWE should have 2 of everything. This is where we get back to less is more. I don't think they should have 2 women's world championships. I don't think they should have 2 world championships, and definitely they don't need 2 tag team champions. I love the brand split. It reminds me of most um, sports leagues here in America, where you have 2 divisions, 2 conferences, 2 leagues, whatever. And yes, each conference eventually has their own champion, but then those 2 champions play each other to crown a League Championship. So, I mean, I don't mind the Intercontinental Championship and the United States title. You know, those can be the brand champions, but then just have the one world, because like I keep saying, less is more. You put emphasis on the world title, the women's world championship, and the world tag team titles, just one, and you're champion. Everyone's coming out for after you instead of, well, I was champion on Raw and I was champion on SmackDown. So, and when we get to the other women's title match, I hopefully can feel it, can see what I'm getting at, where just need the one title, okay? Put it on your main feud, main focus. On the other brand, they can fight for contendership, and they fight at a premium live event instead of crisscrossing and so forth. I don't know if I'm contradicting myself. I think that's the right wording. Where you know, like I said before, I love the brand split, but you know, no interactions in between unless you're fighting for the world title. You know. But I think I got my point across. Let's just get to the match now. Let's get to the match. Liv Morgan, Rhea Ripley, they've had history. You know, umpteen years ago, they were the women's tag team champions. And, you know, there's only one women's tag team championship. Why aren't there two for each brand? Oh, just saying. But I'm sure I'll talk more about those and opinionated later. But anyways, you know, here we are. You know, Rhea Ripley has returned from injury that she sustained from Liv, who, like I said before, these two have had history in the past. I'm trying to remember if it was post-pandemic, I don't think it was pre-pandemic, but anyways, they were women's tag team champions, okay? And they had a falling out. Liv turned on Rhea. Rhea injures Liv at some point. You know, and then Rhea joins the Judgment Day. She becomes one of the main leaders of Judgment Day. And now apparently timing's right. Liv comes back, wants redemption against Rhea. She injures her. Rhea's on the sideline, which sucked. You know, because let's be honest, Rhea Ripley right now is one of the best women wrestlers in the world, in the organization today. And her on the sideline just, you know, it sucked. And plus she had over a year-long title reign that came to an end, unfortunately, because of due to injury, and injuries happen. And, you know, it sucked that she had to relinquish the title right after WrestleMania. But then you had the whole, you know, you knew once Rhea came back, they're going right into this. And then the whole Liv Dominic, the third wheel. Dominic makes it the interesting thing because, you know, it was Rhea Ripley that injured, or it was Liv Morgan that injured Rhea Ripley. And Dominic was trying to do everything in his power to prevent Liv from winning the vacant title and so on and so forth. But everything kept backfiring, and Liv kept winning, and then she started hitting on Dom, and Dom's like, no, mommy, mammy. And then, you know, finally Rhea Ripley returns. We have them butting heads, and Dominic had to show his loyalty. Where was his loyalty? You know? Where was his loyalty going like? Was it going to be with Liv? Was it going to be Rhea? And as we saw in the match, which surprise factor, I think is on the low end, to be honest. Was I totally surprised that Dominic joined and align himself with with Liv Morgan? No. To be honest, I'm not surprised. And I'm sure I'll get more into this when we talk about Damian Priest and the Judgment Day. But I will say, I felt like after WrestleMania, the Judgment Day should have broken up, or dismantled, or went their separate ways. And how things are going and looking, and you'll have the Judgment Day Civil War. Um, but like I said, I think I'll get more into that later on when I talk about Damian Priest and Gunta. But surprise factor, I wasn't that surprised that Dominic joined Liv and helped Liv retain her Women's World Championship. And after the match, you see Rhea Ripley in the ring, just heartbroken and just flabbergasted, and Dom just smiling away. And I think there was a picture on social media that Liv Morgan bought Dominic chicken tenders or whatever. And so this will be interesting. It will be interesting to see where this storyline goes, because it's far from over that Liv and Rhea, because I don't know who else would be challenging for the title, especially on the Raw brand. So this ain't over. Judgment Day, like I said, is imploding, and Rhea Ripley's on the outside looking in, kind of, sort of, you know. So overall, it was overall, the match was good, and we'll see where it goes from there. I'm sure we'll get another match between the two. I'm wondering if we will get a stipulation where Rhea wins something. She gets 5 minutes alone with Dominic in some type of match or something, or because I don't really want to see a Dominic versus Rhea. I don't want to see intergender matches. I know it's just wrestling, and it's but I don't need to see intergender matches. But I wouldn't mind seeing like a stipulation where Rhea needs to get revenge on Dominic, one way or another, whether it be a paddling or a lashing or whatever. So, but does Rhea need another title run? I don't know. Maybe at some point, but the feud will continue, and it will be interesting to see where it goes from here, because that feud's far from over, and it's all going to be interlinked with that Judgment Day Civil War, you could say. So, we move on. Next match on the card, it was for the Intercontinental Championship. It was a rematch from Money in the Bank. We had Sami Zayn defend the title against Braun Breaker, the son of Rick Steiner. It's just funny how they acknowledge that Braun Breaker's the son of Rick Steiner, nephew of Scott Steiner, but yet they haven't made the commitment of changing his name from Breaker to Steiner, or Braun Breaker Steiner. And I don't know. I'm fine with him having his own name instead of relying on his family name. I get it. He looks like a Steiner. He acts like a Steiner. He moves like a Steiner. He sounds like a Steiner. So why are we just going to call him Breaker? But it's just, oh, he uses a Steiner line. Oh, Frankensteiner. But to be honest, like I said, I'm fine with the name. Just be you. But like I said, it was a rematch from Money in the Bank. I was hoping that Money in the Bank, how they were pushing Scott, how they were pushing Braun. I thought the match between him and Sammy at Money in the Bank would have been like 10 seconds. Spear, 1, 2, 3. Braun Breaker is your Intercontinental Champion. But it didn't go that way. Sammy outsmarted Braun and retained the title. So you knew you were going to get a rematch sooner. Rematch, and Breaker was going to win that title. And the match went a little longer. It wasn't quick, but this time Braun got it done. Now he's the Intercontinental Champion, and the sky is the limit for Braun Breaker. But I will say, one of the things I did not care for in that match, because you have 7 matches in the card, they gotta be all unique somewhat. If match A is going to have, say, a table spot, match C or D shouldn't. And somewhere down the line, you don't want these overlapping. You want every match to be unique and separate and not copying anyone else. So, and what was Rhea's injury? Her arm or something? But in that match, her shoulder got dislocated, and she kept trying popping it back in, and so on and so forth. Well, in the Sami Zayn Braun Breaker match, first thing in that match, Braun goes for a spear. Sami leapfrogs, and Braun hits his shoulder in the post. So he's dealing with a shoulder injury. So I mean, you just saw that in the first match, and now you're doing another shoulder injury angle-ish in the second match. So I wasn't too thrilled about that. And I mean, I understand stuff happens, especially when we get along to the main event. But another good match in my mind. The right wrestler won, Braun Breaker. Now he's the IC champion, and I believe he should have he needs to have a nice long title run. Bring on all challengers. You can bring on Jey Uso, who I am somewhere down the line. I feel like he should have his own title run, but not anytime soon. You can bring on Jey. You can bring on Ilya Dragunov. Trying to remember if Sheamus got involved with Braun Breaker. I know Sheamus has his own feud with a former ally. I'm trying to think who else is on Raw. But I mean, you can just feed, and I feel like Braun Breaker should at least be champion for almost a year in my mind. He'd be great off of that. He needs to be champion, defend that title at WrestleMania, retain it next year at Summer Slam, maybe lose it because, well, I don't know about maybe. We all know somewhere down the line, Braun Breaker is going to be World Heavyweight Champion. It's just going to happen. Just how he is, not who he is, how and what. And then, what's going to happen to Sami Zayn? Okay, what's next for Sami? Because, yeah, okay, he was the one that ended Gunther's historic IC title run. Is he going to then now challenge Gunther for the World Heavyweight title? Because, he beat Gunther. And I know I'm getting ahead of myself. Is he going to potentially, we saw him in a tag team match with Jey Uso. Well, maybe they can go after the World Tag Team titles, Who knows? And I'm not sure. Maybe some time off. I just don't know what they're going to do with Sami from this point forward. I mean, Sami's a great talker, motivator, sweet talker, yeah. But like I said, I think the match was good. Braun Breaker, who knows where this is going to go, but it's sky's the limit for him. Now, unfortunately, the first 2 matches I felt were great. good way to start the show. Now the show gets a little not stale, just what's the good word? Lackluster, maybe. Because the next match was the United States Championship. Logan Paul defending his title against L.A. Knight. Yeah. And L.A. Knight, huge fan favorite. He wants to try to bring that Attitude Era style mentality. He's a great talker. He's a good worker, and just the crowd's behind him. The whole yeah, and so on. I mean, great mid card guy. I know he's had several world title runs in other companies, but other companies' world champions are mid cards in the WWE. That's just fact. Not saying LA Knight can't be a world champion sometime in the WWE. It would just take time. And not everybody needs that world title. Okay, but I digress. um, and then you have Logan Paul, who has been United States champion for almost 300 days, 200 something, I think it was. And he's just super talented. Okay, you can say what you want. Find it funny because you know how both him and his brother, you know, they were child actors, you know, but then they focus on their passion of combat sports, and they, you know, child actors, they had the money, they could get their personal trainers, they can work out, get everything need, work, train, so on and so forth every day. So, you know, they didn't have to be actors. And I mean, to some extent, Logan Paul is still an actor, but he has it. He had been a fan of professional wrestling growing up. And he's just super talented. And it's like, oh man, this guy's just, he's a part timer. He's coming into our league. And to some extent, you know, LA Knight can roll off that. I mean, you know, LA Knight, he had to work his way up to the top. Logan Paul, well, he's just here. He's just that damn good. And money and so forth. But I mean, that somewhat to all aside. The build up to this match, I don't know. It just, you know, with Paul not being there every taping and so forth, I'm not a big issue about that. The build up wasn't really there in my mind, and it was, even if the build up was there, the match itself didn't exceed expectations. You I don't know about, I kind of felt like LA Knight was going to win. Put the title on him. Finally, he gets rewarded for all his hard effort. You know, Logan Paul, he can take some time off and come back. You know, the next Saudi show or whatever. I don't know. He might get his rematch at some point down the line, but the match itself just didn't deliver. And Logan Paul went back to his old tactics. He had one of his goons with the brass knucks. He had to use the brass knucks, rely on the brass knucks, which I don't mind. I don't mind when a wrestler relies on a certain gimmick, weapon, or whatever. But I don't know if it felt like it was just overdone or whatever. But I don't know. The match, I keep saying, it just was not that good. Now, where we go from here? Are we going to get a rematch? Yeah, maybe. But something just tells me Logan Paul's just going to take some time off. He is a, you know, part-timer, and which I don't mind myself. You know, he's good enough. And but LA Knight, like, he wants to be there every night, so on and so forth, and just the roller coaster of a ride that LA Knight has happened in WWE is just incredible, and now we'll see where they go from here. I don't know who would be the first challenger, unless it's, like I said, unless it is Logan Paul in the rematch. I'm just trying to think who's on the SmackDown roster. I mean, no, Karrion Kross is on Raw. I mean, you got, you have the Bloodline, a down under, whatever. You got, Theory. You got Grayson Waller. Even DIY. If they don't go after the tag team titles again. But then you're turning someone heel and so forth. But so yeah, there's plenty of opportunities for LA Knight. He's not. It's not going to be here. Maybe he'll make it to WrestleMania. Maybe he'll make it to Royal Rumble. I don't know. I just don't feel like he's going to have a long title reign. But I feel like he earned it. He deserves it, and good for him. We'll see. We'll see where it goes. And then we move on. Another lackluster match and build up and so forth. And this is why I believe that we should only have one women's championship. Bayley, WWE Women's Champion, defending her title against the Queen of the Ring, Nia Jax. And then with the side feud of Tiffy Time, the Miss Money in the Bank, Tiffany Stratton, right? Yeah. And don't get me started on the Money in the Bank briefcase, because I feel like that has run its course. And it just shows. But that's a tale for a different day. But Bayley winning the title at WrestleMania has had a lackluster title run. Okay? And like I said, this is why there should only be one women's world title. But yeah, I guess I digress. Blah blah yak. Get to the point. Okay. Do I really think Nia Jax should be champion? I don't know. It was nice for her to win the Queen of the Ring, and then they give a title opportunity to her. But like I said, it was just a lackluster build. Big versus small, and then distraction, and just, in the end, did Nia Jax really beat Bayley, or with the distraction of the Miss Money in the Bank just help, and Nia Jax gets the win, and now she's the new WWE Women's Champion. And between, say, her and Liv, who's the better champion? I don't know. Like I said, it felt like the match also was lackluster. The storytelling, getting to where they were, and now what? Is Bayley going to try to get a rematch against Nia Jax? Who's going to beat Nia Jax? Somewhere down the line, Tiffany Stratton is going to cash in and become the new women's champion after interference or getting involved one way or another. So we all know that she's going to be the new champion at some point or another, and that Nia Jax is probably not going to be champion for long. But I don't know where they're going to go with this. Like I said, there's not that many women on the roster, and there's not that many good women on the roster. They're getting better, probably proper training and so forth is getting there. So let's just move on to where the show finally picks back up after those two little disappointments, to the grudge match, the non-title match of the night, where we finally, since January, actually see CM Punk in the ring, in gear, as he takes on Drew McIntyre with special guest referee Seth frickin' Rollins. And to some extent, this all started with Punk's return at Survivor Series last year. You know, Rollins like, no, what's he doing here? Get him out of here. Because we were all going to get the Rollins Punk feud. And that was the match reportedly slated for, WrestleMania. Punk, Punk, was going to fall short in the Rumble, but he was going to win the Elimination Chamber or number one contendership to face Rollins at WrestleMania. Whether or not Punk was going to win the title at WrestleMania or not, that's neither here nor there. It doesn't matter. But eventually, what Punk, ever since Punk returned to wrestling, seemed to be his thing. His go-to thing is to get hurt, get injured, and tears his bicep at the Rumble, and so he's sidelined and misses the Rumble. Who steps in? Drew McIntyre. And Drew McIntyre has just been outstanding ever since the Royal Rumble, as I'm even trying to remember what he was doing before getting in this picture and title frame, because he more or less got Punk's spot. And Rollins hurt his knee, so I mean, the match that you were hoping, both main guys were hurt, so they substituted Drew substituted Punk at WrestleMania, and then he beat Seth Rollins. He finally, because when McIntyre won the Rumble in 2020, he was supposed to headline main event, sold out. What's that stadium called? Tampa Bay Buccaneers Stadium. The pirate ship. He was supposed to sell that out. And then COVID hit, pandemic. He beat Brock Lesnar in a warehouse, practically. Nobody there to cheer him for his crowning achievement. And so it has eaten at McIntyre for years. Finally gets his shot at WrestleMania against Rollins, wins the title, and then mouths off to Punk. Punk causes McIntyre the title because who comes running in? Senior Money in the Bank at the time, Damian Priest. Damian Priest cashes in, becomes World Heavyweight Champion. And that's good. Get the World Heavyweight title out of the way in this feud. Punk, nursing that injury and just teasing and making McIntyre's life a living hell over the course of this summer. Spring and summer. And then finally McIntyre, he gets a few humdingers in there, and then once Punk was finally medically cleared, the match was set. Unfortunately, the referees, it's like, oh, we don't want to take part of this. We got beat up by Punk, we got beat up by McIntyre, no. And so Seth Rollins comes back in this 3-man feud to, I'll be the special guest referee. The match will be referee's discretion, and we go from there. And now, how do I feel about the match? Do I believe the match delivered? I think for the most part it did. I mean, Rollins, he was, a biased referee. Letting McIntyre, letting Punk do what they want to some extent. But I do feel like the turning point in that match you know, for weeks, if not months now, McIntyre beat up Punk one night. I think that was on SmackDown. He took Punk's bracelet that has his dog's name on it and his wife's name on it, and so he was using that as material because and in the match, of course, he comes out, he's wearing it. During the match, Punk was able to retrieve the bracelet, but yet it gets pushed off to the side, and so forth. And as a good referee, Seth Rollins picks it up. But I don't know why he puts it on. I get it. Instead of pocketing it, putting it in his pocket, puts it on his wrist. And I knew at that point, watching that match, well, that's what's going to cost Punk, because he wants his bracelet back, you know. And he gets, you know, in a verbal confrontation between him and Rollins about the bracelet, and McIntyre takes advantage. There's a little more back and forth, but in the end, the bracelet cost Punk the match. Drew McIntyre gets the win over Punk, which I feel like now that feud is over with. Okay, the Punk McIntyre gets the last laugh. He also he takes the bracelet back to keep it. I mean, as a reward, I guess, maybe. I can't really see another match between these two, to be honest, because the main feud is Punk and Rollins. That's what it's supposed to be. That's where they finally get back to, is Punk and Rollins. And I don't know what's next for McIntyre. Maybe trying to go after Gunther. I know I'm getting ahead of myself. Or going after the World Heavyweight Championship, I should say. I don't see him as an IC or a tag team. He's got to get back in the world. Now he can focus on the world title again. And now we get Punk and Rollins, and we'll see where they go from here when that match is going to finally take place. I don't think at Bash at Berlin would be good. Maybe Bad Blood. Bad Blood is at the beginning of October, so maybe we'll get that match then. But like I said, I think the match was good, and it brought liveliness and so forth back into the event. Okay. Second to last match on the card, the Raw main event. The World Heavyweight Championship. Damian Priest, the champion, versus the King of the Ring, the winner, Gunther, for the World Heavyweight Championship. And I don't think it was without a doubt. Even what they did in the match, I don't think was very necessary. But that Gunther was going to walk out as World Heavyweight Champion. And like, this is where to some extent, like I keep saying before, I won world title. It's like, I want Gunther to be world champion, but Cody Rhodes, I don't want him to lose his title, so that's why we make this fake championship. You know, Gunther was just Intercontinental Champion for almost 3 years, two and a half. You know, but I should back up just a little bit. So after Rhea losing, there was some arguments in the Judgment Day clubhouse. Damian Priest all mad, asking everybody if they knew. And Finn, we didn't know. And then I think some people online during the show were wondering, oh man, is Finn going to turn on Damian? Are we going to see another, backstabbing moment? Because Finn was kind of in on with Liv. Finn brought in JD McDonough and there was some tensions there. And then Carlito shows up, and both Damien and Rhea didn't really care for JD or Carlito. So Judgment Day was being overrun. Um, but this is where I felt like after WrestleMania that Judgment Day really should have went their separate ways, especially with when Rhea got hurt, Damian Priest, how he was acting. It was more baby facious than heel, like the rest of Judgment Day, and that just what JD and Finn, who are now the World Tag Team Champions, they should go their separate ways. Whether or not Carlito and Damien should join them is a different story. Now it sounds like how things are going. It sounds like Rhea and Damien, they got kicked out of the Judgment Day. So is it really still Judgment Day? Who knows? But yeah, you have this civil war, so to say, and it'll be interesting how it gets played out, because we're going to get Finn versus Damien, so on and so forth. Because in the match, Gunther was going to win, but I feel like you didn't really need to have Finn Balor interfere, putting Gunther's leg on the rope. And I always hate that spot, because the referee comes down. He's supposed to be looking at the shoulders. He's making the count 1, 2. What? Why is he's poking his head up to see? I understand. Oh, there's something in the corner of my eye, but it just I don't know. I just don't care for it, because it feels like, hey, that should be a disqualification or something like that. You know what I mean? And so yeah, in that match, Finn intervened on Gunther's behalf, which I don't feel like they needed that. Maybe, and of course, they show replay and Damien sees it, and then I didn't really care for the finish, where Gunther he has the did he have the chokehold on Damien, and Damien hulks up or whatever and hits his finishers, and then you had the whole Finn Balor helping Gunther or not. I forget exactly, but then anyways, then you get Gunther, he hits his power bomb, and then he puts the chokehold back on, which I don't feel like it should have been power bomb 1, 2, 3 instead of power bomb chokehold. But yeah, anyways, so you have Judgment Day's imploding. Gunther now, he's the world heavyweight champion. Where is he going to go with this? He's got a main event bash at Berlin, even though he's Austrian, but that's practically his backyard. And who's going to? Is it going to be a rematch? Is it going to be Drew? Is it going to be who's going to challenge Gunther at Bash in Berlin? I don't know. It'll be interesting. So you have the Judgment Days imploding. Gunther, just let it soak in, and just let him run with it. Same thing. He can easily have a year-long title reign, if not longer. Because once he Sami Zayn could be the challenger, like I said, and he's the last one to beat Gunther. He hasn't lost since, and we go from there. Nice. Besides the ending, I thought the match was pretty good. And now we get to our main event. The Bloodline. The new Tribal Chief, Solo Sikoa taking on Cody Rhodes for the WWE Undisputed Universal Heavyweight Championship in a bloodline rule match, which I feel like was very unnecessary. But what they want to do in the match, they felt like they had to, which I don't think so. You easily could have got away with it by a ref bump, you know. But hey, we'll just do bloodline rules, anything goes, so we can have the bloodline interfere. We can have Kevin Owens and Randy Orton come and save the day, because I mean, that's who's been feuding since, you know, Cody won the title. He finally beat Roman for the championship in a bloodline rules match at WrestleMania. So we get the same basically match again 4 months later at SummerSlam, but different opponent, different challenger. But basically the same thing though. I mean, the night before, the Bloodline won the tag team titles, so they were WWE Tag Team Champions. And unfortunately, Jacob Fatu, you know, one half of the tag team champions, he hurt his shin doing that splash off the top rope, putting Cody through the announce table. So yeah, hopefully it's not too serious. Hopefully, because that's just gonna hurt. That's just gonna hurt if Jacob just showed up and he gets hurt. Ugh. And I forget if it's which Tama Leia, whoever has the patch for the eye, and so forth. But this is where I wish the Usos didn't break up, because I would have loved to see Gorillas of Destiny. You know, if you know, you know, from New Japan, you know, take on the Usos. I would love to see that type of match. But yeah, kind of laziness. Some might say that we get this anything goes match. You know, of course, Tongaloa. I say Tama Tonga and Tongaloa. Yeah, interfere. Then the Jacob Fatu interferes, but you have Randy Orton and you have Kevin Owens come and save the day and fight off, and Jacob Fatu, like I said, gets hurt. And then here you have Cody and Solo in the ring, and the question became, was Roman Reigns? We all know. Solo said, you know, Roman, if he wants to be tribal chief back, he has to come and earn it. And the question is, when was Roman going to return? We know he was going to return sooner or later. Was it going to be now at SummerSlam, or was it going to be later on? And, well, they pulled the trigger, and Roman made his triumphant return, spearing Solo. Not necessarily, you know, helping Cody win the match. He more or less took his frustrations out on Solo, and so it begins. You know, Cody, and it's not like Cody went for the cover after the spears. He hit the crossroads, get the cover, 1, 2, 3. Cody retains, and Roman and the Bloodline, you know, Solo, you have some explaining to do. And we'll just see. And the Bloodline is the main storyline that's driving the WWE. So it'll be interesting. When will, you know, I'm sure The Rock will come back. What's the health status on Jacob Fatu? What is you know, who's on? Are we going to see Jimmy return? You know, then we heard, you know, Tama Tonga and Tongaloa's other brother, Hikuleo, is supposed to show up at some point. He's signed. There's so many Samoans. And but then, like, are we going to get a War Games match out of them at Survivor Series? We'll see. And then who's going to be challenging Cody? we don't necessarily need to see Cody at Bash in Berlin. I think it should just be focused on Gunther. Bad Blood. I know there's talks that have Randy turn on Cody. From Randy wants one more title reign. Legacy, so on and so forth. Just lure Cody into a self, not denial, but you know what I'm saying. Not sure who's going to be the next challenger for Cody, but only time will tell. So there you have it. My thoughts, my opinions on SummerSlam. Only time will tell where they go from here. We can just sit back, relax, and see what they deliver on Raw and SmackDown. And I could easily be back and give my opinion, my 2 cents on Bash at Berlin at the end of the month, August 31st. And it can hopefully things just get better, and we can talk more then. So I appreciate you taking time to hear my thoughts, and thanks for watching, and until next time, adios, muchachos.